The EU has announced sanctions on the Russian private military company Wagner, as well as individuals and entities linked to it. EU foreign ministers also discussed other potential economic sanctions against Russia if it invades Ukraine.
This deep mud is still the least of these Ukrainian soldiers' problems. They've been deployed here in the country's east, their neighbour Russia always in sight. What lies ahead for them is being negotiated far away in Moscow, Brussels or Washington. Putin only understands the language of weapons, but of course it would be better if there were a diplomatic solution. How can Russia be deterred from a possible invasion? That was debated by German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock and her EU counterparts. Their answer? More sanctions, starting with Russian security firm Wagner, which is active in eastern Ukraine.
Russia is actually preparing for the all-out war against Ukraine, and it's an unprecedented event, probably since the Second World War.
Whether the gas pipeline Nord Stream 2 will also be used as leverage against Moscow remains unclear. The German Federal Network Agency has just suspended the certification process because there are clear requirements for European energy firms. But Austria, on the other hand, wants to get on with it. It's ready. We should use it. The Kremlin has said that unless NATO pledges not to expand further eastward, the threat of military action remains on the table.
DW correspondent Barbara Wiesel is in Brussels for us. Barbara, how serious is the threat of a Russia-Ukraine war being taken in Brussels?
That differs largely, Rebecca, because as we heard, Lithuania, for instance, all the Baltic states, Poland, some other Eastern Europeans are taking it very seriously indeed. The big European countries like France and Germany are trying to sort of tone down the rhetoric a bit. And some other countries, as we saw, Austria, for instance, say, it's all not that bad, let's get on with it. Let's just sort of pretend nothing is really wrong. So it varies widely. However, there is, of course, a perception of an ongoing threat because the military buildup is undeniable, and NATO has been warning about this for weeks on end now. And US President Joe Biden has found some quite strong words about this. So they are under pressure to really sort of get themselves into a format that would be able to respond if Russia really should decide to move.
As you say, varying assessments there from European ministers. How united, then, is the EU in its desire to impose sanctions on Russia?
If it comes to the point, and they will have to decide fairly quickly, because day after tomorrow, on Thursday, there's already a European summit here, and they will have to come out with some sort of more or less united front. Now, again, of course, the power of the bigger EU countries will be a very strong part of this whole process. If they really push, and particularly Germany, if they really push for sanctions to be prepared, for really strong and tough sanctions to be prepared, then the rest will sort of move with them more or less. Complete unity in the EU, as we know from the past, is always a big problem. But this is going to be a long night.
What role could the controversial gas pipeline Nord Stream 2 from Russia to Germany play in all of this?
It plays a role, of course, because nothing has made as much bad blood politically in some Eastern European countries as the Nord Stream 2 project. When it was conceived, I guess nobody even thought about that it could be so controversial. At the moment, it seems to be like one of the main pieces of leverage the West has against Russia. And Annalena Baerbock, last night, she gave another interview and tried to sort of make it clearer. And she referred to the American position, saying that the US had said if the Russian aggression really goes forward, then Nord Stream 2 is off the table. So that was a fairly clear hint that this pipeline could remain closed. She also earlier talked about it not being compliable with with European law because there is no unbundling of the deliverance of gas and the ownership and all these technical problems. So there's two hints to that Germany could come under so much pressure to keep the gas pipeline closed that they would just have to do it. But there is more, of course. There is banking, there is the whole defense sector, and there are gas imports, and that is the most tricky point.
All right, Barbara, thank you. DW's Barbara Wesel for us in Brussels.